Hello everyone, playing a little bit of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Got a couple more scary stories for you before I get back to my usual content. Before we get started, I just wanted to state that if you have a story to share related to the DogMan, if you can leave it in the comments section, ideally with a link to a newspaper clipping or the like, to provide evidence, ideally, of your story, that would be fantastic. Or some other form of evidence. Alrighty then, like, share, and subscribe. And let's get on with it, shall we? The Beast in the Abandoned Orchard. My family had been living in our community for several generations. We hadn't grown that much. It was still largely a rural community, connected about a 30-minute drive from a small town. Generally, when I was young, we would hear stories about how there used to be a large number of farms in the area that either went out of business or effectively just decided to close up shop when the original owner passed. Several of these old farms would become hangout areas for teens, young kids running off into the woods, urban explorers and the like. They unfortunately, over time, began to get overgrown. People began to lose track of them. Many updated maps for the area wouldn't have them anymore on them. One of them in question was a small farm that had about a 10-acre orchard on it. Generally, we were told to stay away from this specific farm, as the original owner had been killed under mysterious circumstances. From what we were told, they somehow, after a neighbor had found the door ajar, went into the house, and the entire family was found slain in their rooms, seemingly torn apart by an animal that not only had gotten through the front door, but each individual room without anyone noticing. This, of course, attracted the attention of many urban explorers, cultists, and anyone looking for a scary time in the woods to go on out and try to find the place. My grandfather knew the family quite well, so he actually had a general idea of where it was. And one night, after he had had a few drinks, we decided now would be the time to ask. Over a few well-crafted questions in order to garner information, we had a general location of where it was. So I decided to get a few friends up and head out to the location we felt it was at. After we'd all gotten together, it effectively took us around 4 or 5 hours to find it. We'd left early in the morning, so we'd have plenty of time. We'd essentially spent most of that time just walking in circles, finding various animal tracks along the way, including tracks of what we felt was a rather large dog. Once we figured out we'd effectively passed by it on several occasions, we pressed past some brush, and there was an old orchard that had grown mostly overgrown. However, still many of the trees, as it was the right time of season, were bearing fruit. We noticed at least several animals had been by consuming the fruit, as there was half-eaten fruit everywhere. We decided to just kind of wander around to see if we could find any evidence of where the main house used to be. However, one of my friends decided that he wanted to check out a trail of tracks of a rather large canine that headed off in another direction. We decided to go with him, just in case he ran into a rabid dog, which wasn't unheard of in our area. We decided that it'd be better if we'd be in a group. We made it to the other side of the orchard, only to see a rather large canine just sitting under one of the trees. My friend pointed out and gasped, which immediately attracted the attention of the animal, which then proceeded to stand up on its hind legs, bracing one arm on the tree. We were quite astonished to see it, as while its legs were essentially like elongated dog legs, it had arms that had rather long claws on them. It was rather slender, with a dog's head. It clearly was not pleased to see us, as it began to growl softly. So we all decided to back on up, but I just couldn't help but stare. It started staring right back at me in a rather agitated manner. So I decided that it would be best to start moving a little bit faster. Me and my friends were nearly on the other side of the orchard when we heard the beast charging. We weren't sure why, as it was out of sight, so we assumed it would leave us alone. But apparently it had decided that it just didn't like the fact we were there, period. So we all took off out of the orchard. As we had finally figured out a way to get to the orchard, we were quickly able to find the way back. And as we exited the exterior of the orchard through the brush, we heard it stop charging. So we decided to continue to move as quickly as we could back to our homes. Once we reached the neighborhood, we all decided to part ways and not speak of it until morning, after we could bring our thoughts together. That night, I was watching movies with my grandfather, who had been sitting on the couch all day watching his favorite shows. He'd recently come down ill with the flu, so wasn't in the best of shape. While he was resting to get his strength back up, he decided to catch up on his favorite TV shows. He seemed rather curious while we were sitting there watching movies on effectively why I had been gone most of the day, and why I essentially came in covered in leaves and small twigs. I explained to him what happened, and he seemed rather angry, proclaiming that he had told us not to go near the orchard. We explained that we just got so curious that we couldn't help but go. He relented, despite still being agitated, saying he understood that when he was a kid he did the same thing. Although he told me to make sure, tonight when we all went to bed, to make sure I locked the doors. I, of course, did not take him very seriously, although I did go lock the doors before bed. My grandfather went back to his room, and I heard him loading one of his old big game rifles. When my grandfather was younger, he had a preference for hunting dangerous game. Everything from Cape buffalo to moose, whatever else could hunt him back. He, when I knocked on his door, opened it, telling me that I should go to bed and to sleep with one of the old rifles that he had available next to my bed. I disagreed with the process doing that, so he said it's alright then, and I should just go and head to bed. Although if I heard anything outside my window, to immediately come wake him up. I went to bed, and a few hours later, I got up to go to the restroom and to grab some water after that. Well, on the way to the kitchen, the sliding glass door at the back of the house, I saw a rather large shadow moving through the edge of the property. There was a street lamp near the corner of the property, so it was partly lit up, but not enough to be able to clearly see what was there. I, of course, didn't put much to it and grabbed my water. So then decided to head back to bed, not before going back past the sliding glass door just to take another look. There, I saw the same creature that we had seen earlier the day, this time approaching the glass door. I stared at it in shock and couldn't bring myself to move. Of course, the beast in question didn't give me time to decide what to do, as clearly it had been carrying a large rock in its one hand, and threw it at the window, smashing it. My grandfather's room was near the kitchen, and the room with sliding glass door, so I figured someone had heard. However, in my shock, I still just stood there watching it approach the now broken glass door. Began to snarl and growl. I'm going to move closer, like he was getting ready to charge. It seemed to enjoy, in some way, me being terrified. That's when I heard it. My grandfather screaming at me to get down, pushing me to the ground. Despite being of advanced age and not very healthy, I was still a much smaller build than he was, and he could easily just shove me out of the way. Not before I hit the ground, I heard the first shot. One shot, then another, and another, and I heard my grandfather loading another shot before firing again. 4 rounds of .458 Winchester Magnum, an appropriate round for hunting elephant, slammed into the beast in question. It howled in rather extensive agony, as I could clearly see it retorting in discomfort. To the point, I could see an open bleeding wound on its one arm, where it looked like there was a bit of bone sticking out. It took off back into the woods, and my grandfather told me to get up. He told me to go get another one of his rifles and to bring it to him as he was running low on ammo. I brought my grandfather the rifle that I'd grabbed by the corner of the room. It was another large caliber rifle meant for big game. I brought it back to him and he said that was a good lad. Told me to go to bed as he was going to be sitting there the rest of the night. Morning came, my grandfather was still there, told me never to speak again of what I just saw or to go back out there. Although I decided to write this story down and send it to you. Alright, thank you for your time. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave your stories in the comments section if you can. Alright, see you around.